Mayor Pete Buttigieg has kind of taken pride in the fact that he does not dabble in specifics. He's more about laying out the values behind things. But what if someone were to look into the specifics of his record? Well, Jonathan Larson from TYT Investigates has done just that. And he's uncovered yet another weird thing, racially charged, that happened under Mayor Buttigieg's South Bend, Indiana Police Department. And it is this. The article starts off by saying Mayor Pete Buttigieg's controversial claim that a secret report exonerated his chief of police in an incident with racial undertones appears to be contradicted by the report itself, according to leak excerpt obtained by the Young Turks. So this is the story of what happened in South Bend, Indiana, when there was a report of a fight outside a community center, and there was one police officer named David Newton, Lieutenant David Newton, who went out to handle it. And according to a report from a civilian on the scene, he did not have the proper backup that was necessary, and that was supposed to be provided by the chief of police at the time, Chief Ron Teachman. And so there was an investigation done after the fact by the Indiana State Police. And according to Mayor Pete Buttigieg, everything was fine. There was no wrongdoing because according to Mayor Pete Buttigieg, the reports conflicted witness to witness. But here's what Buttigieg said. Buttigieg refused to release the ISP report, but told city officials in a letter that the witness accounts in the report, quote, make clear that Ron Teachman, who is white, did not violate requirements for backing up fellow officers, and that Teachman, quote, has my full confidence. Larson continues saying, however, according to the leaked excerpt of the actual report, which includes a summary of the report's findings, none of the witnesses corroborate Teachman's account. That's the chief of police, the white chief of police. Multiple witnesses directly challenge his claims. In some passages, witnesses say explicitly that Teachman did fail to back up his fellow officer. So what Buttigieg seems to have pawned off as, listen, they're conflicting claims. The only conflict is that the chief of police is the only one who doesn't corroborate everybody else's story. That is the exact same, saying Teachman was in the wrong.
So if you're wondering why would Buttigieg back up this police chief in this racially charged situation, well, let me explain it. In order to do that, I'm going to give you a little bit more context. Buttigieg gets in office, and the current police chief at the time in South Bend is Darrell Boykins. He's African American. He's the first African American police chief they've had. Then there's a controversy about how some of the cops were taped. Their conversations were taped. And so Boykins didn't do anything wrong there, and no one ever charged him, let alone convicted him or anything along those lines. In fact, Buttigieg then demotes Boykins. He first tried to fire him and then demotes him and puts a new police chief in because some of the tapes apparently had a lot of the cops saying racist things. So now already that's a huge problem. Wouldn't you want to know what's in the tapes? Buttigieg has convoluted answers as to why we shouldn't listen to the tapes and why he had to punish not the guys who said the racist things, but the black police chief who revealed those things. So he's like, oh, the black police chief should not have done those tapes and I'm going to fire him. Oh, I can't fire him, I'm going to demote him. So then he brings in Teachman. Then Teachman in a separate incident will not back up a black cop who is, and let me give you the background on that. The Lieutenant Newton and the police chief Teachman are actually having a meeting in this area, coincidentally, and then Teachman goes to the bathroom, according to every witness but Teachman, and Newton, somebody comes up and says to Newton, hey, you're a cop, there's a problem right outside, and it's a huge group of people that have gathered, and there's guns. So Newton rushes out. Okay, so far nothing wrong at all. Here's the interesting part. Teachman comes back from the bathroom, and then they tell him, Newton's out there, and there's a big crowd, and there might be guns. And he doesn't do anything. So you want to give the details of that? And so then, but before you give the details of why Teachman might not have done anything, a reverend that's on the scene turns in Teachman and says, the police chief didn't back up his fellow officer. That was really weird. You guys should look into that. Indiana State Police does look into it. Every witness agrees, except the police chief, that the police chief did not back up the black officer. So now when the mayor gets this, Buttigieg, he could then go, okay, wait a minute, man, I didn't see this coming. Why didn't you back him up? Every witness here is against you. And this is incredibly strange. No, Buttigieg says, no, Teachman didn't do anything wrong. and I won't let the other people see this report. Wow. So if you're wondering why, well, the most obvious answer, now this is my analysis, not Larson's reporting, is he put Teichmann into office, and in a particularly controversial way. He doesn't want to then come out and go, yeah, I demoted the black police chief, and when the new guy I put in wouldn't back up a black police officer, it was no big deal. Yeah, okay, he's embarrassed by it. So that is what it appears to be why he covered up this report. And let's be honest about it. I read the report itself. I read what Buttigieg said about it, and most of it is in the story. We'll put the link down below if you're watching this later. Buttigieg lied. What he said is not at all what the report said.
And really quick about the previous chief of police that he demoted. His defense of that, when asked about it publicly by a student during a town hall, I think on CNN, he said, well, there's other reports that I can't disclose that say that it's more complicated than that, and don't worry about it. So if that's the dynamic, it's kind of like Robert Mueller being like, oh, I read that thing, or it's kind of like what Bill Barr saying, I read that thing, here's all you need to know.
Yeah, no, it's a lot like William Barr.
Exactly like William Barr back with the Panama snatch and grab thing, where Barr did the same thing 13 years ago. This is the same thing where he's like, oh, but in this case though, Buttigieg is saying, don't worry about another report. I'm not going to talk about this other secret report.
You don't have to read the actual report, and I will not release it, even in a redacted version. But trust me that it validates and exonerates my police chief that I put in.
Yeah, but just really quick, the details. Chief Teichmann was asked what he was doing during this. Chief Teichmann was asked if he recalled adjusting the floor mats near the front doors while this fight was happening outside, introducing himself to two females, speaking with the females about their church, and then going back and adjusting the floor mats again, as was stated by other witnesses. According to the report, at first Teichmann stated absolutely not to these questions. Then he said, wait a minute, floor mats. Then he said, gosh, was it there that day? He now said that he had a vague memory, but did not think it was there that day. Chief Teichmann spent over a minute talking about his recollection of possibly adjusting floor mats. So talk about readjusting the chairs on the Titanic. While this was happening, it's very clear that detailed first graphic I just read was everyone else's accounts, saying exactly what he did minute by minute while this was happening outside. And then Teichmann's like, no. And then he realizes how fully fleshed out this question is, and goes, maybe I'm mistaken. That's how I read that.
God, that's really sad. I mean, because what do cops always talk about? We got to protect each other, protect our own. And sometimes we even criticize them because they take it too far, right? But here, you got a black officer who might be in trouble right outside, and he's inside the building adjusting the floor mats. So two other parts of this super quick. They then go to internal affairs. And while internal affairs is talking to the black officer, Lieutenant Newton, Teichmann walks in.
Yeah, not supposed to do that.
No, of course you don't do that. That's like basically saying, hey, you shouldn't testify here, right? And remember, Newton is not the guy who brought the case. It was the Reverend. Newton didn't have anything to do with it. He's like, all right, if you're asking me, yeah, that's not exactly what happened, okay? And he's trying to be careful because he knows he could get in trouble if he goes against the police chief. And then the internal affairs guy says to the police chief, you wanna sit down and stay with us while we're doing this? That means that's the internal affairs guy telling Newton, I'm not on your side, I'm on the police chief's side. And you're gonna be shocked at what happened to Newton afterwards. He got demoted.
Yeah.
God, right? And so, and by the way, the Indiana State Police are the ones who, it's not like it's some sort of liberal organization. Indiana State Police are the ones that say Teichmann's account did not match anyone else's account. So, and if you're wondering, as somebody asks, why is TYT Investigates doing so many stories about Buttigieg? So, and this is interesting, and it's an interesting context. So they're doing objective reporting, and then we give you the analysis here. So Jonathan Larson, who's the managing editor, went to South Bend based on a tip that he got about Buttigieg's record. And when he went there, people kept coming up to him like, oh, you're doing a story about Buttigieg and racial issues? Hold on, I got more for you. And more people kept coming up. I got more. Newton hadn't talked about this before. Remember, Jonathan finds the document that Buttigieg wouldn't release. That's what's exclusive about this story, and you should check it out for yourself. Because somebody gave it to him, and that's how this works. So they're like, oh, you're willing to report the reality of what happened with Buttigieg, right? And then he goes back to Newton, who's never talked about it before, and Newton's like, yeah, no, I got played, and I knew I was going to get played, and that's what they did to me, and it wasn't right. You can see his actual quotes in the article itself.
Yeah, I think that the broader dynamic vis-a-vis Buttigieg, I think, is something that happens with a lot of sort of very educated white liberals, especially, in which they tend to believe their own ability to provide solutions to problems that are community problems while ignoring the recommendations of the community itself, right? Like this happened with the police chief that he demoted. The community activists, especially African-American community activists, told him not to do that because he was very popular and a very sort of well-respected police chief. And then he brought in a guy from the outside. And then this guy from the outside that he had expended his political capital on probably impressed him in some sort of PowerPoint presentation, because these guys love PowerPoint presentations. Once the rubber hit the road in this community that he didn't really understand and he wasn't from, some altercation happened, he got spooked, like he just got scared. And he probably, if he had been from there, he may have known, oh, I can handle the situation. I'm going to be okay. And then Buttigieg covered up. And this is the like this dynamic happens again and again, especially when you look at Buttigieg's record, where he just kind of says like, no, I know how to handle this. I mean, there's all the issues with housing in South Bend, Indiana, where community activists were like, yo, dude, chill with raising all these homes, and he's like, no, but like the charts and the formulas say I got to do this, so this is right.
Yeah, and so I want to say one last thing about that, because look, am I sure that Buttigieg is racist? No, I don't know that at all, right? And so I don't want people to misunderstand what we're saying. He's a young guy who's a young mayor there. I also don't want to exonerate him. I don't know his heart or his mind, right? But he's probably a little inexperienced.
Yeah.
And he's got all these power players within that town saying, hey, you got to do this, you got to do that, etc. And I don't know if he panicked, but there is a little bit of a cover up now in 3 different stories that Larson has uncovered, right? Yeah. And now let's be fair. One of our hosts, and I forget who said it in one of the other stories, said, now imagine if Bernie Sanders, when he was mayor of Burlington, had done several different cover-ups of racially charged issues. What would the national press do with that?
They'd be all over it.
They would have tried and convicted him already, right? So I just want you to note the interesting double standard that the mainstream media has. I look at this and I go, that's a sad situation, and I wonder why he did that, but it's important for you guys to know. They will take any little thing about Bernie Sanders and go, aha, okay, he's got racial problems, right? Buttigieg, actual racial problems. All these African Americans in South Bend are saying, look here, please look here, right? Mainstream media is like, no, not interested. Okay, we broke the story. We have the documents. This is 3rd or 4th one in a row we've broken with documents that nobody's ever seen. Yeah, right? So who's the one with the agenda? Who's the one with bias? That's a fair question to ask. Larson's doing real reporting here, and you should read it for yourself and make your own decisions. Like what you see? Click the subscribe button below, and don't forget to ring the bell to never miss another video from the Young Turks.